Hello, I'm Alex Davies, founder of Wealth Club. Today I'm with Matt Ellams of Jenson Funding Partners to talk about their EIS and SEIS funds. You run both an EIS and SEIS. Can you tell me about them?
Sure. Morning, Alex. We invest in very early stage businesses. We do that through SEIS and EIS. We came into being in 2012. We were the second largest SEIS fund, and we've consistently raised year after year.
Tell me a bit about your own background.
My own background, I started my career at 3i. I've worked in the venture capital team, sold off the venture portfolio, which was the largest European secondary at the time. I then moved to Omega Funds, which was essentially a secondary outfit. From there, I then did some consultancy work, which was very much around turnaround and also raising capital for some early stage businesses, at which point I came across Jenson and joined them as the portfolio director.
And just give me a bit more background about Jenson.
Sure. Foresight looked at SEIS coming in and basically said this is an interesting opportunity, but the ticket sizes are probably too small for their core. So what we did is we did a joint collaboration with those guys and set this up as a fund, basically under their regulatory umbrella.
And let's talk about the companies you invest in. What type of companies do you invest in? What are you looking for?
So from an EIS point of view, as we alluded to, we pick the best of the portfolio and blend that with the best of what we see externally. From a sector point of view, we are agnostic. I'd say we typically operate in what is called the equity gap. That is basically the traditional EIS and VCTs focus on companies that are doing $1 million of revenue, ideally profitable. We will go earlier than that because of our experience of working with the SEIS companies.
Okay, can you give me some examples of the companies you've invested in?
Sure. So one of the companies we talk about a lot is Voneus. This is a very typical example of what we would invest in. It was a VoIP solution.
What's a VoIP solution?
VoIP, sorry, it's a voice over IP. So very much like a Skype. Obviously Skype became quite large very quickly. So with that company, what we did is we did a pivot. We pivoted into rural broadband. Since then, we've gone on to raise several raises on that piece, the most significant of which was Macquarie put 30 million into that this summer.
What about some recent investments you've made?
Sure. We did an investment in a company called Dream Reality Interactive. Content, you've probably heard the expression content is king. At the moment, there's, if you look at the likes of Sky, people like that and their roadmaps, they're very focused on AR and VR, so augmented reality, virtual reality as content. What these guys are is they're basically specialists in production of that type of material. And another company is the Link app, which is a legal tech business. So that obviously by the name, it focuses on the legal sector. It's a SaaS model. Why that's interesting is that legal as a sector is very difficult to get into. So their uptake has typically been quite slow. But what's interesting about it is that it is very sticky.
Where do you get all these deals from?
Jenson Funding Partners has Jenson Solutions, which is an outsourced FD solution. We have FDs throughout the UK, so that provides one source. The other is that I think it's fair to say now we're regarded as the SEIS provider. Because of that, we naturally get a lot of deal flow come our way because of that.
You've been around since 2012. Have you had any exits yet?
Yes, we've been very fortunate, especially in the SEIS space, and we've had 5 exits to date. Of those, the most significant of which is a company called Agency 2. That's a social data business. That received 4x up front and is on target now for a full 12x, which I think compares very favourably with the rest of the market. What was also interesting about that is it was effectively an acquisition of the clients. That was what they were focused on. So we actually spun the IP out separately into a new co, which means our investors could get 2 exits from one.
And what is the typical exit route going to be for all the companies you've invested in so far?
At the moment, ours has been typically a trade exit. There is obviously, as companies grow, I mean, for example, the Voneus example we talked about, that I think has potential for an IPO. There's a couple other companies that we've got in the portfolio which are gearing towards that sort of way.
Stepping back a bit, are you finding things quite competitive in the market? Are you competing on these deals? Are valuations sky high, as some people say?
Yeah, I think valuations is a very interesting point. If you look at what we do with our EIS cash, as we alluded to earlier, there's a lot of the larger funds have invested in our companies. So what we're doing with our EIS cash is we're not just pumping up the valuations of our existing portfolio by putting follow-on capital in. These are externally validated businesses that are being validated by some of the larger funds.
How risky is what you're doing?
I think we make no apology for the fact that we are in the high risk space. We expect failures. At the moment, our failure rate is about 20 of the 100 investments have gone into liquidation. I'd say for the risk profile of that asset, that is comparatively low.
So, to summarise, if I was going to invest this year in an SEIS or EIS, why should I invest with you?
Firstly, the longevity. We've been in tax products since 2012. Secondly, failure rates are low. Thirdly, if you look at where we've received the follow-on funds, a lot of the larger funds have invested in our companies, which shows that we must be doing something right. That means that you're coming into these companies earlier at a better rate. And finally, of course, I think the most important factor that everyone should look at in these is exits. And we have 5 exits, the most significant of which is on course for a 12x.
Matt Ellams of Jenson Partners, thank you very much.
Thanks, Alex.